art of securing financial legacy and ensuring a smooth transition for loved ones, delving into strategies that go beyond the will, providing a roadmap for peace of mind in uncertain times, insights into building a lasting legacy and financial resilience with estate planning and wealth management. I'm Zahir Kelvin Ong Abdullah, and this is Money Matters. Hello there, good evening and welcome to Money Matters on your favorite channel right here on TV3. We are also available on HD via Tonton. Well, today we have in the studio Ahmad Feizal Sulaiman Khan, Group Managing Director of Amanah, Raya, Berhad. Welcome to the program, Feizal.
Thank you, Kelvin, for having me here today.
A pleasure to have you with us. Now, Amanah Raya has just celebrated its 100th anniversary last year. Definitely a huge milestone. Congratulations. Can you tell us a bit about what Amanah Raya is all about, its roles and its functions?
Well, Amanah Berhad is a government-owned company established in 1921, which provides wealth and estate planning solutions to the public. So this includes will writing, trust administration, and estate administration services for the nation. For over a century till today, we have continued to deliver wealth and estate planning solutions to the nation and have conducted and have introduced innovative products and services to better serve the public.
Right.
So we are governed by the Public Trust Corporation Act 1995, which allows us to administer and allows us to have the authority to grant letters of administration or provision of court representation and ensuring protection of minors and disabled, amongst others, which we have 20 branches nationwide to provide these services.
Right.
In Malaysia, there's only one institution which has been entrusted and given the mandate and authority to issue letters of administration and act as an administrator. Let me break it down to you. For Amanah Raya, for estates which are movable below 600,000, is totally within the compass of Amanah Raya. For the small estate distribution unit of the Department of the Director General Lands and Mines, or JKPTG, they can do movable and non-movable assets up to 2 million. And for assets above 2 million, movable and non-movable, it's with a high court. So in fact, Amanah Raya is the only institution which provides a complete A to Z solution for estate administration, trust administration, and will services.
Right. So what ministry do you report to?
Well, currently, because we're 100% owned by the Ministry of Finance, we report to the Ministry of Finance.
Oh, okay. Now, looking at the roles and functions of Amanah Raya, a lot of people out there, the Rakyat especially, have some misconceptions to its roles and its functions. So, based on your knowledge, what is the biggest misconception?
I believe it's always the pending funds that are with us. If you imagined, if I were to ask you a question, what's the value of the assets that you think belongs to the deceased people in Malaysia that has to be distributed every year? Let me tell you, the recent numbers shows it's about 6 billion ringgit. 6 billion ringgit. So take an average about 100 years. So let's say 3 billion. So 3 billion 100 years is 300 billion would have gone to the system. Now, out of that 300 billion assets that have gone through the system, the assets that are stuck is only half a billion. It's not too shabby, eh? Half billion of 300. And these are pending not without good reason. Amanah Raya has the responsibility to distribute these assets fairly to the rightful beneficiaries. So we call it the pending fund department. And amongst the initiatives that we do is we have this Jejak Waris initiative, and every now and then again we announce the beneficiary's identity in the newspapers, failing which these monies would eventually go back to the government.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned just now the beneficiaries, because there was a report saying there's about 500 million worth that has not been distributed yet. So how basically do you manage to ensure that this goes to the right people?
Well, the first point of reference is a will. The first point of reference is a will. In the absence of a will, the assets has to be distributed according to the law. That means for the Muslims, you follow the Faraid law, and for the non-Muslims, you follow the Distribution Act 1958. So we follow that. And we find the beneficiary until we find them, which means jejak waris. That means we go knocking on people's doors and find the rightful heir. Failing which, after a certain period of time, the money goes to the government.
The money goes to the government.
And I would like to mention again, you mentioned 500 million. 300 billion, half a billion. So let's get it right.
Yes.
300 billion, half billion. So not too shabby.
Not too shabby, yeah.
Not shabby.
But in terms of looking for these beneficiaries, are there other government agencies that assist you in terms of looking for them? Like the National Registry Department? Or
yes. Yes. There are collaborations within the various government institutions. Mostly it's with JPN, because the identification stems from the IC, and then we go on who are the connected parties to this particular IC. We have a department called the Pending Fund Department who purely focuses on our KPI is to reduce these numbers basically. We don't want the numbers to go any higher. I mean, but over time, when you think about it, now there's 6 billion assets, and that's what we know of. That's 6 billion assets that get transferred within our radar, and there are assets which get transferred below the radar, for example, right? So if you imagine this amount increases, say next year it goes to 6.5B or 7B, our 500 will always be a ratio of the amount of asset that goes through. If you like, a percentage of error ratio. Even the computer has a half a percentage of error ratio.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Looking for beneficiaries, like you said, because there's other agencies involved, sounds like a very tedious operation.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So again, is there a time frame before you all, Amanah Raya decides that, okay, we've done the best that we can, and now we can't find the beneficiary, then the money goes to the government. Is there like a time limit?
Yes. By and large, we're governed by the Public Trust Corporation Act 1995, and this act was especially for Amanah Raya. So we have certain powers to deal with pending funds depending on the nature of the complexity. So the timeline kicks in depending on the nature of complexity. So once it reaches a severe state, I'm not sure about the details, maybe it's about 7 or 10 years, the money eventually goes back to the government.
Right. So looking at this whole process for Amanah Raya, so how many employees are there at Amanah Raya and its subsidiaries?
We have about 700 employees. The core service provider is Amanah Raya Berhad, which provides will, estate administration, and trust services. We have our subsidiary, which provides corporate trust services, Amanah Trustees Berhad. We have our asset management subsidiary, which is Amanah Raya Investment Management, ARIM. And we also have our REIT management company, which is Amanah Raya Kenedix REIT Management. So these are our 3 other activities, if you like: corporate trustee, asset management, and REIT investments.
Okay. So hold that thought. We've just got to go for our first commercial break. Stay with us. We're talking to Ahmad Feizal Sulaiman Khan, Group Managing Director of Amanah Raya Berhad. See you right after this. Welcome back to Money Matters, and we have with us Ahmad Feizal Sulaiman Khan, Group Managing Director of Amanah, Raya, Berhad. Now, just following up where we left off just now, how does Amanah Raya help in legacy management, for instance, especially in cases where someone dies without a relative or a will?
Well, Kevin, a will ensures that the assets belonging to an individual will be distributed fairly in accordance to their desires, right? Now, by having a will, the appointed executor or administrator will distribute the deceased assets based on the will. Now, in the absence of a will or proper estate planning, family disputes and delayed estate administrations normally occur. For Muslims, the deceased assets will be distributed according to Sharia law, which is known as Fara'i law. And if there are no surviving family members, the asset will be given to Baitul Mal, which is a government institution. Meanwhile, for non-Muslims, the estate will be distributed according to the Distribution Act 1958, and if there are no surviving family members or no claims on the estate, the assets will be transferred to the government.
Right. So what are the advantages of having a will with Amanah Raya?
Well, firstly, one will be ensured of the authenticity of the will, because Amanah Raya, we've been doing it for 100 years now. And the will is kept in our custody free lifetime. And it will also ensure that your estate distribution will be done by Amanah Raya as a go-to department to seek help on estate distribution. The other advantage, I guess, is that one will feel protected under the law because we are 100% owned by the government.
Yeah. Looking at what you mentioned about trying to find beneficiaries, during COVID, I'm sure, like all other agencies as well, I mean, you must have had a lot of hurdles that you had to overcome. So did you all have to change the way your Amanah Raya did things when it came to COVID?
Well, the main thing was working from home. I mean, I suppose we were not excluded from the effects of COVID like everyone else. We had to embrace digital technology. All our systems we had to ensure they were all working on cloud, and which is something which we are still ongoing, process which is still ongoing. But apart from that, it had a different effect, because during COVID, as you know, there were more deaths. So it kind of increased the awareness of people towards Amanah Raya. So it had a positive and negative effect towards Amanah Raya, because now the awareness towards Amanah Raya has increased. Now, if you ask me whether the awareness of Amanah Raya is plausible, it's not. And I have the numbers. The Malaysian population is about 34 million. Number of wills registered to date is about 1.5 million. That's less than 5% of the population.
Can we move on to the latest statistics on will, trust, and estate administration?
Yes. Okay. Well, to date, for the last 100 years, in terms of will, the number of registered wills that are with Amanah Raya is about 1.1 million, as I mentioned. In terms of trust administrations, the amount of files that we have closed today is about 160,000 files. And active trust files with us is about 40,000. And active estate files is about 14,000. But I would like to remind you that the number of cases doesn't necessarily reflect the value, because as a government representative of estate services, we have to deal with all cases, including all the B40 cases, even estate below 5,000. So that's one of our social mandate, that we cannot refuse cases below, even if it's below 5,000. That's our social mandate.
Okay.
As a representative government.
Again, we've just got to go for our final commercial break. Stay with us. We're talking to Ahmad Feizal Sulaiman Khan, Group Managing Director of Amanah, Raya, Berhad. Stay with us. Welcome back to Money Matters. Now, continuing where we left off, the public has the perception that Amanah Raya holds the assets belonging to the deceased. Could you clarify further on this?
Okay. Well, upon an individual's demise, the assets will still remain in the name of the deceased until their family members begin the process of administering their estate. Movable or immovable assets will not be directly transferred to Amanah Raya. For instance, savings in the bank belonging to the deceased will remain in the bank's custody until the heirs initiate the estate administration process. To clear the misconception, Amanah Raya conducts various activities on its roles and functions through electronic, print and social media platforms. So we mainly act as a distributor, Kelvin, as purely to ensure that the distribution is performed correctly,
right,
and fairly, justly.
Okay. So, I mean, it seems that usually there will be a legal process as well. So would Amanah Raya assist, can I use this word, your clients in terms of getting things done with the courts, for example?
Oh, yeah. In fact, that's one of our selling points. Our solution is complete, right? So if you have an estate administration case, typically, if you go to other agents, for example, you would probably have to get a lawyer with power of attorney, etc. But if you come to Amanah Raya, you just appoint Amanah Raya and that's it.
Okay.
And you don't even have to appear in court,
yeah, so
where we can appear for you.
So it's more or less like a one-stop center to assist.
It is. As the Public Trust Corporation Act 1985 is a unique act that provides Amanah Raya with such powers to completely administer the estate, which no other agency has.
So again, it goes back to what you're saying, that only 1% of Malaysia's population basically has a will. So it takes a lot in terms of changing their mindset.
Oh yes, yes. I think the low-hanging fruit is just focusing on more and more awareness. If you think about it, not many people talk about preparing for the death.
Yes, because for a lot of people, it's still a taboo subject to be brought up in the family, right?
So I suppose that is the culture change that we as a nation must embrace, because doing a will is essentially planning, and it's part of financial planning. So I don't see anything wrong with that. If one were to imagine the complexities of an estate administration without a will, then I think 9 out of 10 people would go for the option to plan ahead, because it saves a lot of trouble.
Right. So again, it's getting this knowledge out there for people to understand this.
Yes, yes. And of course, creating the awareness and inducing the public to have a will. We've launched promotional discounts, and we ease the process of getting a will. For example, if you do a will online, a comprehensive will, if you have all the documents, it should take you no more than 48 hours online. On the app, should be the same. The length of the time taken to do a will is mostly in collecting all the information of your assets and liabilities.
Right. Now, can we move on to what Amanah Raya's initiatives to encourage the public to start planning their wealth?
Okay. Well, we do a lot of public engagements. For example, Amanah Raya, we organize public talks and workshops in KUAP, in ASNB, in Petronas, in Koperasi PDRM. And we also conduct educational talks to universities, you know, in USAM, Universiti Malaya. So we have a lot of collaborations. Recently, I just gave a talk to the Malaysian Bar Council. So that's hitting it where it's really relevant, because the lawyers and the people from the land office are the key stakeholders in the estate administration process, and the High Court, of course. So, yeah.
So looking at what you have mentioned in terms of trying to get that reach, for you trying to reach out, but in terms of your customers or potential customers, so how do they reach out to Amanah Raya?
Well, we have 20 branches nationwide. My advice is, because of the sensitivity of the situation, ideally, you should come to the nearest branch and go for the first free consultation as in what you should do. The next thing that you can do is reach us on our website, or hopefully you can reach us from our app that will be launched soon.
Yeah. So looking at the whole structure of what you have, you mentioned subsidiaries just now. You talk about your REIT management, your asset management, your corporate trustees as well. So in terms of looking at investments for Amanah Raya, what are the products, can I use that word, the products that you all actually look at in terms of investment?
So Amanah Raya was set up in 1921. So if you imagine the estate that we deal with, as I mentioned to you, every year is about 3 billion. But some goes to the High Court, and some goes to the JKPTG, and some goes to us, right? So over the years, there'll be a lot of funds in our possession. Some are pending, and some are in transit. And these are in the tune of 1 to 2 billion, all the time. And hence why we've created our subsidiary called Amanah Raya Investment Management to professionally invest these assets in a professional manner, which is regulated by the Securities Commission. So the types of assets that they invest will be no different than any other asset management company, like Kenanga. So we would have a mixed bag of equities, fixed income securities, money market instruments, and what have you, like most other asset management. And ARIM has been around for more than 10 years now. So currently we are still continuing the investments with ARIM. And of course, we are further pursuing our business strategies with our corporate trustee and REIT management as well.
What are those business strategies, if you can elaborate?
Well, for the corporate trustee, of course, it's gaining other types of products, because corporate trustees, over the years, I think Amanah Raya has focused on our product of estate administration. If you look at wealth and estate administration, there are other pockets of products which have not been ventured or worked on, for example. So corporate trustee, we are working on other products. For example, now we are making more strides into trustee for sukuk issuances, for example. And in REIT management, we are reprofiling our portfolios. We're streamlining our properties into education, wellness sector, and industrial sector, moving from the office sector, if you like, because this is one of the effects of COVID, if you like. Our REIT management used to focus a lot on office, and now we're shifting that to education and wellness.
What would the reason be?
Because our offices were suffering from low occupancy rates. Because of the COVID, everybody wanted to work from home.
Right, okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for appearing on Money Matters. It's been a pleasure having you with us again.
Likewise, Kelvin. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
For the past half an hour, you've been with us on Money Matters. If you missed the earlier part of this episode, you can also catch it up on Tonton. Be sure to join us next week, same time right here on TV3. I'm Zahir Kelvin Ong Abdullah. Thank you for watching and have a great weekend.